Test. Hello, everyone. Sorry about the delay. We are ready to get started. So if everyone could take a seat, we really appreciate everyone showing up tonight. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. We're going to start off with a roll call. Sam Schoenberg.
Present.
Jenny Schaefer.
Present.
And I, Mauricio Garcia, are present. We have quorum. We are next going to move to approve our minutes from 7/17, which was yesterday, 6:30. Sorry, not at 6:30, 8:30 in the morning. I don't know what day it is. And so I'm just going to put it up for movement to vote on the minutes from yesterday, July 17th. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any debate or discussion? All in favor of approving minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. We are going to approve our meeting minutes. Again, everyone, just for everyone's awareness, we always have meetings before today so that we can set up and not have technical difficulties, but sometimes they occur anyway. But it's all about, is this better? Hey, Chungers, is there any way that we can get volume up higher? This is better? Good. All right, better. Okay. Gonna eat the microphone. But just to let everybody know, we usually meet the day before so that we can prepare for this meeting, and that's why we're approving minutes from yesterday so that we can approve our presentation and have it all structured for today. So Anna, if you don't mind going up to slide 3, please. Oh, sorry, 5. We're going to start today with a couple of key updates, and we're going to turn it over to Jenny. I know there's some news that we want to get to right away, so we're going to turn to that now. So Anna, if you don't mind going to slide 6. And then Jenny, I'll give it to you.
So last week, we learned of allegations that an asylum seeker staying at the 19th Police District Station may have been a victim of sexual misconduct by a CPD officer. After we learned of the existence of this allegation, we acted quickly to confirm that the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, COPA, received it and was actively investigating. As COPA's chief administrator publicly announced this morning, an investigation involving this allegation is ongoing. As of today, COPA reported that there is no specific victim or officer that has been identified in relation to this allegation, and their work to fully investigate continues. I'm going to repeat that there is no specific victim or officer that has been identified as of yet, but they are continuing to investigate. While COPA has not reached any findings or conclusions, we take any misconduct allegation of this nature extremely seriously. Beyond contacting COPA last week to confirm an investigation had been initiated, we have taken several other steps to respond to this allegation. We worked with city officials to relocate the 4 remaining asylum seekers that were then staying at the 19th station. We provided general instructions to avoid being alone with unknown individuals and shared information on how to report any allegations of misconduct with asylum seekers who had previously been in the station. We communicated with alderpersons in the 19th district and Mayor Johnson's administration to divert further asylum seekers away from the 19th station for the time being. In addition, we have communicated to the 19th district commander, Jasani, that we are very concerned about this allegation and let him know that we plan to discuss it at this meeting. As investigations continue, we encourage anyone with pertinent information to contact COPA. The information for COPA should be on the next slide, Anna. Right there. You can contact them on their website or by email. It will remain in continuous communication with COPA about this situation. These allegations, if proven to be true, would constitute a flagrant abuse of power. If an investigation sustains the present allegations, we expect anyone found to have committed misconduct to be held accountable to the fullest extent possible. The mere existence of such allegations in this district and elsewhere in Chicago underscores that police stations are neither intended nor suitable to house vulnerable individuals and families. The city has committed to work to keep the 19th district empty of asylum seekers. However, individual asylum seekers have been self-transferring to the 19th district station. Since yesterday, 18 asylum seekers had relocated themselves to the station. We got an update just before this meeting that they've all been relocated. But this is just a very fluid, ongoing issue that we are dealing with. We communicated this situation to the mayor's office, and his administration is attempting to move these individuals to other locations, which they have done as of this evening. As I said, people may come back. We understand that these self-relocations to the 19th District Station are occurring because care for asylum seekers throughout Chicago is inconsistent and inequitable. For months, the city has relied on volunteer efforts to fill the gap and provide much-needed assistance for the growing number of asylum seekers in our community. Here in the 19th District, we have been lucky that a dedicated volunteer mutual aid group has worked countless hours in recent months to ensure that new arrival needs are being met. We commend the tremendous generosity that so many in our community have displayed in welcoming our new neighbors. But unpaid mutual aid is not and cannot be a sustainable solution to this situation. Because of the resources in the 19th, volunteers have been able to provide a different level of care than even the citywide shelters can. People return to the 19th District because of the care they receive. This catch-22 creates inequities that make the system less stable. It is the government's responsibility, not that of an ad hoc network of part-time volunteers, to provide solutions. We therefore call on the mayor and other leaders at all levels of government to remove all asylum seekers from the CPD stations and to provide them with equitable, citywide pathway to affordable, sustainable housing, as well as access to other basic needs like jobs, physical and mental health care, and education. A comprehensive government-run strategy is necessary to ensure our new neighbors and all Chicagoans in need are safe and can thrive in Chicago. Their safety and security will have a positive impact throughout the entire city. We will continue to monitor the situation and will act should any similar issues arise. We are sharing all the information we have, and therefore we are not taking any further questions at this time. If you do wish to make a public comment at the end, we will provide time for that at the end of the meeting. You can also reach out to us at 19thdistrictcouncil.com, at gmail.com. We had originally had someone from our mutual aid network who was going to come and speak about some of the advocacy efforts that they are working towards. Unfortunately, she had a COVID exposure and cannot make it any longer. But we are committed as a district council to keep updated about what can be done to really make sure that we have a lasting solution for the 19th and throughout Chicago. Thank you.
All right, Anna, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So I do want to speak about some of the key incidents that have happened in the 19th District. Specifically, today we're going to focus on 3 incidents in the 46th Ward. That's where I live. I wanted to speak to the Sunnyside Mall shootings that happened at the beginning of July, of this month in July. We attended a very well-attended beat meeting 2 Thursdays ago where over 100 residents showed up to express their frustration with the situation happening in the neighborhood. Angela Clay, the Alderwoman 446, was in attendance, and she outlined some plans that we plan to take on together, our offices together, so that we can address some of these strings of shootings. There are some tactical things like that we can do, like trim the trees along the Sunnyside Mall so that it can improve camera visibility, also ensuring that the Bureau of Electricity is maintaining the lights in that corridor. We also have been speaking with CPD leadership at 19. I do want to acknowledge that Commander Giussani and 2 of his lieutenants are here tonight, so we appreciate you being here. And in my meetings with Commander Giussani, he has alerted me that there are increased patrol in the area, specifically at Magnolia Plaza, and I myself can confirm that. As I was leaving for work today, there was another patrol car right outside of the Magnolia Plaza, so increased presence just to help deter any further activity. In addition to the Sunnyside Mall shootings, there's also been a homicide at Clarendon Park. There is no updates that I can offer on that as of now, but the investigation is ongoing, and we should be expecting an update from CPD specifically on that case specifically soon. as well as Sheridan Road stabbing that this was this past weekend. Sheridan Road and Wilson, there was another stabbing. These two stabbings, the Clarendon Park and Sheridan Road, are not related. However, we expect to hear more and have an update from CPD on those two as well. I did want to take some time to put this all into perspective from a 30,000, 50,000 foot view. I did want to alert people that comparatively from January 1st through July 16th, 2023, we are seeing better statistics in terms of crime statistics compared to 2022 of those same time periods. It's a little hard to see, but on the very right-hand side, you can see that the comparative numbers are a lot of green, which means that it's not as prevalent in terms of crime statistics this year. So just so you can see what I'm talking about specifically, homicide victimizations in 2022 to July 16th, there were 8 last year. As of this year, there have been only 3. I very much encourage everyone to go to the Violence Reduction Dashboard, which is a city-run government website that gives you statistics by district and ward level, or even neighborhood level. So if you're curious about your neighborhood and want to know statistics and want to have those available to yourself, I recommend Googling Violence Reduction Dashboard Chicago. And you can also see it at the chicago.gov website as well. So just want to put everything into perspective. While these stabbings and homicides are of course unacceptable and frightening, we are having a better year compared to 2022 as of now.
Could we move to the next slide, please? Hey everyone, I'm Sam Schoenberg, your 3rd district council member. I do want to give a few updates about some of the meetings with city leaders that we've had over the last month. As Murillo mentioned, we've been in close contact with Commander Gisani about the allegation that Jenny spoke about, and also about other crime incidents in the 19th Police District. We've got regular meetings now set up with 5 of the 6 alder people whose wards touched the 19th District. I want to acknowledge that we have the alderman covering this church, Alderman Timmy Knudsen here. And we also have Alderman Matt Martin from the 47th Ward in attendance tonight. So thank you both for coming. And we look forward to continuing to meet with you about these issues as they arise. Jenny Murillo and I are working with the staff of Senator Sarah Feigenholtz and Representative Ann Williams to come up with a meet and greet time for our joint constituents that we're hoping to announce probably for sometime in August, so stay tuned for that. And I also listed COPA here on this slide because as this situation with an allegation of potential sexual assault right in our area has unfolded, we've been in continuous communication with the Civilian Office for Police Accountability. We want to make sure never to get ahead of any investigative work that they're doing, but we want to make sure to be as transparent as possible with the community as information can be shared. And finally, with CPD leadership, I did want to mention that we, as recently as last month, had Captain Dave Del Pilar, who had worked really extensively with us in this district. I found out that on a Saturday that he was transferred on a Sunday. We have wonderful leadership here in the 19th District that we look forward to continuing to build a relationship with. But it came as a bit abrupt to me, so I'm hoping we can build in some more transparency about sort of who the leadership is and as to how those transition happen going forward.
And also advocate to make sure we have a captain back in the 19th District. All right, next slide is constituent engagement. As you hear me talk about every month at these meetings, this is really what we see as the heart of our work, is going out and having conversations with you guys. We make every effort possible to meet with as many people as we possibly can. One of the efforts that we have begun in order to really continue to broaden the circles of who we reach out to are, we have our district council liaisons, that liaison between their community group, either a neighborhood association or a block club or whatever group that exists within the community, and the district council. We had our first meeting last week maybe, and it was exciting, and we really think that this will help to spread the ideas that we're sharing at this meeting with a broader community. And to that, I just want to plug, if you are a neighborhood group and you want to have a liaison that participates in these meetings, I would love to hear from you. I'm reaching out to as many as I can, but please reach out to me as well, because that is important to us.
And we've got some I know most people can't see these slides. I promise we will post them online, and we'll say it as many times as you want if that's helpful. But we're available at 19thdistrictcouncil@gmail.com. 19thdistrictcouncil.com is where you can sign up for that list. We also have an Instagram at 19th District Council, so please follow us. Could we go to the next slide, please? Another development that happened citywide this month that I wanted to highlight really quickly is that the independent monitoring team that is appointed by the federal U.S. District Court that oversees the police consent decree came out with their latest report on the city's progress towards the CPD consent decree. As has been the case for a while, there's been increasing compliance overall, but full compliance with the hundreds of reforms that the police department is court-ordered to implement is still at only about 6% of the total numbered reforms that the department is supposed to implement. The department is in some level of the compliance with almost all of the consent decree requirements, but full compliance is really lagging behind. The top recommendations from the independent monitoring team is for CPD to do three things. One is conduct a comprehensive staffing study, particularly when staffing levels at the department really still remain challenged. Second, to adopt a community policing strategy, which we're hoping to be a big part of. And three, to implement a more efficient reporting and data system. So we've got the link on this slide for where you can see this report. It is 1,700 pages long. I did not read the whole thing, and I think hopefully they're going to try to make it more readable in the future, I hope, but wanted to make sure that we're keeping on top of those updates.
And something just to mention with that is, even though, as Sam mentioned, a large percentage of them are at some compliance, the community feedback from people throughout the city is that they are not feeling the results of the efforts that have been made. So clearly we have much more room to grow into this and making sure that we really come to full compliance at all levels of the paragraphs in the consent decree. I think the next slide, please. In the name of just getting to our main speakers, who we really are excited to have here tonight and for you guys to hear, unfortunately, it is very hard to see the slides, but we have been meeting with lots of, in addition to individuals in the community, lots of community organizations. I'll just name a couple: One Northside, NAMI Chicago, the Lawndale Christian Legal Center are just some of the ones that we have been reaching out to and talking to in order to, we really see ourselves as kind of a bridge from these groups to the community. And so it's important to us to get out there and meet as many people as we can and hear about how these programs are working. And one of the ways that we're doing this is by bringing people to come to speak at our meetings, which is what we are most excited to share tonight.
But before that, you have to hear from me again. Next two slides up, please. So we are going to get to our speakers regarding community violence intervention work in just a minute, but I did want to share some really important updates from the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability from just this last week. As I've been mentioning at each of these meetings, but people are still learning, the Community Commission, or CCPSA, is the citywide 7-member body that exercises some really important roles and powers over policing in our city. And the biggest one that you may have seen over the last week, if you could go to the next slide, please, is that this commission that's sitting in an interim basis nominated 3 people to be the next superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. This is the most community-driven effort that's ever taken place to nominate a leader of the Chicago Police Department. I was really just proud to see that that process was put in place. I think it reflects the fundamental idea that the police department should reflect the values and relationships that exist within the community. So the commission nominated 3 highly qualified nominees to Mayor Johnson. The mayor will now have 30 days from the date of nomination to select one as the next CPD superintendent, or to reject all nominees and send it back to the commission to run that process over again. Those nominees are, just in alphabetical order, Sean Barnes, who's currently the police chief in Madison, Wisconsin, and from within CPD, Chief of Constitutional Policing and Reform, Angel Navales, and then CPD Chief of Counterterrorism, Larry Snelling. The Community Commission put out an extensive report about their process. It included 7 community forums, both in person and virtual throughout the city, hundreds of survey responses, speaking directly to CPD officers and supervisors and CPD unions, and talking to dozens of subject matter experts. So it was really an impressive process, and I think set a great precedent going forward. And the district councils will play a role in this going forward. So if you could go to the next slide, please. One of the roles of a district council that I am playing for the 19th District Council is sitting on the CCPSA nominating committee. Because while the current community commission is sitting in an interim basis, appointed directly by the mayor, the next full commission will be nominated by a committee of district council representatives from throughout the city. And I'll be playing that role in representing the 19th Police District. The 22 members of the nominating committee from throughout the city met for the first time ever this last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, July 8th. We established some ground rules going forward. We established working groups within our broader committee because that's kind of an unwieldy group. So I'll be working with Darrell Dakers of the 20th Police District, who you'll be hearing from in just a minute in his day job as a community violence intervention worker. And also representatives of the 18th Police District that also covers Alderman Knudson's other part of the 43rd Ward, and the 24th Police District, which goes all the way up to Rogers Park. So the whole north side lakefront will be working together in working groups to determine how we want this nomination process to go, and then working with our district council colleagues from throughout the city to set that nomination process and then nominate people to the mayor to select for that full commission in the coming months. So I'll be sure to keep you updated. Just the next slide, please. And again, we'll post this on our website, but you can always learn more about the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability at their website, at the Chicago City website. They've got all sorts of social media outreach that they do, an email list. You can sign up for it all, and we'll post this on our website.
All right, well, if we can go to the next slide, please. What we all are here for is to hear from community groups that are helping our community and building a stronger public safety system. And I'm really excited to invite Darrell Dakers up and his team to talk about Communities Partnering for Peace, also known as CP4P. So please give him a round of applause.
Thanks, bro. Hello, everyone. Didn't think it would be such a big crowd, but serving on district council as well, I'm used to a crowd, so I'll be talking for my staff today because I don't get a chance to talk for violence prevention and serving as a district council member in the 20th district. So basically what we do, I'm the program manager for violence prevention for Uptown and Rogers Park and all neighboring areas. So that covers like Lakeview to West Ridge and all like the neighboring areas. That covers pretty much the north side scope of violence prevention. There's a lot of violence prevention happening on the south and west side. You'll hear from Tenny in a minute about what's happening there. A lot of the stuff that's happening in Uptown, me and my staff, we do shooting responses. I was at the beat meeting 2 weeks ago with the 19th District and the commander talking about what kind of resources we provide as far as CP4P. Basically what we do is we provide resources to at-risk youth, those likely to commit an act of violence or victims of violence. We do shooting responses. We make contact with the family, offer services internally as well as externally, whether that's treatment or trauma. So we have some therapists that offers free services for victims that may need that kind of therapy. We offer free lawyers for people who want to get their backgrounds expunged so they can get jobs. We have a staff of caseworkers whose specific job is to find trades or schooling or working or other platforms of higher education for the participants. Each outreach worker has a caseload of about 10 to 15 participants, and each one of them make contact with them at least like once a week, and they're just keeping up with what's happening as far as issues in the community, issues with gangs, and whatever resources they need. Internally at One Northside, we offer trauma-informed care training where we go over these issues. A lot of times people suffer from trauma and they don't know that they need services. They might have ACEs, adverse childhood effects, stuff where they don't even know that they have trauma from there. They just think it's normal. So a lot of what we do is identify what those issues are and try to provide resources to our audience who may not know that resources in the community are made specifically for them. Just trying to hit some of the basis of what we do and why I'm here. So I don't know if I could take questions. I don't know if anybody have. If anybody have any questions, I'll take a quick. Thanks for that question. She asked if there are gangs who we work with. Usually, yes, and it's not hard to work with them. What we have at CP4P, we call it a license to operate, and we use that. Basically, that's having a relationship with the neighborhood. We know the gangs in the neighborhood. We know the territories. Just about 3 years ago, me and my staff created more like a territorial treaty, not a peace treaty, where two gangs, as far as Wilson, they kind of hate each other on the east and west side of Broadway. And we've created safe spaces where even though they still shoot at each other and they still want to kill each other every day, that certain spaces where their neighborhoods collide are safe from the community. So there's no shoot zones as far as certain particular places in Uptown. So right now, a lot of the shootings that's happening aren't from people in the neighborhood. They are from people coming out of the neighborhood because my staff and I have certain agreements where people in the neighborhood, after 30 years of consistently shooting and trying to kill each other, have ultimately stopped. And there's still incidents on the front end. You can't stop everything, but just giving perspective to the type of work that we do. A lot of the time, our participants, they look at the gang life as everyday life. Some of them don't look at it as a captive situation. They just look at it as a means of survival. So even with our financial literacy class, we teach people how to use money that a lot of times, a lot of guys have backgrounds, so they can't get jobs. So selling drugs is what they're used to, so they go and sell drugs. And even if they had all the money in the world from selling drugs, they have poor money management skills, so they can't stop selling drugs. They have to keep doing it just to survive. So what we try to do is attack the weaknesses of people who may not feel like they are a part of society, find trades, find jobs, find stuff that they're good at, and try to capitalize on their strengths. And we offer them, we have over 100 to 150 success rate as far as participants yearly. And success for us looks like getting a job, getting a GED, relocation, leaving the area. Every situation is different. We look at trauma as trauma, trauma affects people differently, and there's different solutions to trauma. So there's no one trick fix when it comes to participants. We deal with every individual as an individual case-by-case basis. So whatever it takes. No problem.
Is there any way to measure and document the success of your programs?
There's, like I said, as far as education, if we add someone in a program and they complete it, we look at that as a success. If someone was a killer on the street and we convince them to stop killing people, there's no way to actually measure that. But we do know the players in the game. Everything's kind of confidential. I think one of the hardest parts of our job is convincing a person who's probably a drug dealer or a gangbanger or a murderer that we're on their side, and we want to help them to transition in something that's going to be beneficial to the community for their sake, for the community's sake, for the beloved community. It's better for everybody.
What's on your wish list? If Brandon Johnson came to you and said, what do you think we need to do to improve and increase the impact of your program? What would be your pie in the sky answer?
Honestly, I know it probably might sound annoying here, but funding. Unfortunately, most of the programs that I told you we do internally are not funded at all. We do it out the kindness of our heart. So the CP4P model, as far as what we paid to do, we do shooting responses, we do lighting the nights, we do big events, we feed the community, we try to get a good turnout, and we keep a caseload of 15 participants. Everything as far as what we do with those participants, like I said, as far as financial literacy, we have an artist development program. I just recently got 10 people out of jail with our reentry program. All of those things that we do, our 7 to 7 program, we do that on our own. We do that without funding. Even this area, like I said, as far as Uptown, we are very specifically funded for Uptown, just Uptown and just Rogers Park. And when there's a shooting anywhere from, I'd say probably North Avenue back, from let's say probably Cicero back to the lake, my staff is there. And we're doing those shooting responses, and we're not funded for anything outside of those 2 specific areas. We're the closest outreach as far as North Side, because they, according to the mayor's office or whoever's in charge, there's not enough crime. So.
All right, I think we got one final question here.
First of all, thank you for what you guys do. You guys are out there putting your own lives on the line for our protection and safety, and to just be a ceasefire. So thank you, because on behalf of the community, and I'm sure your families as well, what you guys are doing is very brave. So thank you for what you're doing, number one. Number two, how can we help you? What can we do to help your organization?
Thank you. Hey, money is still something you can always, you can definitely always help with that. I recommend, please check us out online. Look at some of the work we're doing as far as One Northside CP4P. We have an Instagram. We're having a block party, I believe it's the 23rd Sunday, Racine in Leland. Check us out. Come by, meet some of the organizers, donate, support the movement, and make requests. If we can come out here, if there's things that you guys want to see from us from Rogers Park, we'll come out here and make our presence felt in the community in the 19th. I'm in full support of, this district council team, and, I'm a district councilman myself. We're all in this together. So thank you for your time. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Darrell. Thank you very much, Darrell. I just want to say, this is why we have Darrell and these organizations here, is so people can be aware of them and advocate for funding, because we know that this is a really important part of what the broader public safety system is needing in order to create real safety for everyone in the community. So we hope that you came here tonight, heard from Darrell, are going to hear from our next presenter, and really feel motivated and to advocate for these types of responses to happen more often in the city. And one of the things I just want to say before we bring up our next presenter, Tenny Gross, is what I think is so special about this model is that it treats people who are typically seen as problems in the community as really as the solutions. And I think that when we can kind of flip our ideas of how society should work and how it should help all people, and work towards making people who we tend to see as problematic as the people who really have the answers, and they do have the answers. And that's why we're excited to bring them to you guys and to welcome our next guest. You want to do it?
I think you did it just great. Tenny Gross, please come up. A round of applause for Tenny Gross, please.
So what can I add, right? One Northside is a great organization with great leadership, but what you want to see, I think, what I'll try and convey, and I'm thinking I can go into a dangerous territory, is we know this city is a tough nut, and we needed to build a partnership. Not one organization can carry it, right? So we build communities partnering for peace. So I'll tell you a little bit. I run the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago, one of the 17 organizations, part of CP4P. My background, I'm a former Israeli soldier. I came to Boston to study, got involved during the crack epidemic in violence reduction. Some people call it the Boston miracle. We reduced the violence by about 70%. was recruited to another city in crisis, the third poorest city in the country for children, which I didn't know was Providence. Mayor went to jail there. Police command was let go. A revamp, and again, similar reductions. And I was recruited. The field used to be a small field, and we know each other. Chicago visited us in Boston in '99. They created Ceasefire here. It's a lot of networking among us who do this work as civilian architecture. And in 2014, there was some quite heavy pressure to recruit me, and I came here in October of 15. To build a small organization, to start playing around with different models of this work. But Laquan McDonald's video was released a month after I came here, and Violence in 16 showed up, and funders and the city said, you guys cannot just build a small organization, we need a solution citywide. And I refused to do a citywide organization for myself, right? This is where your ego got to be checked. I said, no, let's build a partnership with people I knew. And that is important, right? That was intriguing. I'll give you perspective from the outside. For the rest of us on the East Coast and the West Coast, my friends in LA managed to reduce the violence in New York, Boston. We were like, why it's not sticking in Chicago? And it usually is about the elites, it's the leadership, right? Both in police, city, and in our fields of civilian architecture. So we set to build a civilian architecture, which now has a centralized academy. We have already trained 350 outreach workers around the city, 144 hours each college credits, professionalizing the field, right? Our field employs very unique people with license to operate. But I can tell you, their profile of our workers, they have lost, they're at risk of dying 5 times more than the American soldiers during the surge in Iraq. Definitely my staff lost more friends than I did in the Israeli army in Lebanon or Gaza. It's quite astounding in a rich country and in a rich city like Chicago. So the solution, sometimes we as civilians, when we're frustrated and there's robberies or shooting, we just want to use the police like attack dogs, and it's not fair to the police. They cannot do addiction, mental health, rape, domestic, homicide, all of those things constantly. It's impossible. The civilian side got to respond too, but it got to be planned and systematized. So when I first came, at the time was Chief Superintendent McCarthy, we built a protocol that we get notified 24 hours a day by the districts we cover. So I work in Austin, West Garfield, back of the yard, and part of Brighton Park. We get called 24 hours a day from the 25th district, 15, 11, 9. And we respond. We have outreach workers. I brought in from the East Coast victim advocates. We have an academy now for victim advocates. We have case management. We have employment programs. It's a slow and frustrating process. Some of our people that we put through that fail. Not unlike my diet. I ride my bike every day, I exercise. I just checked today, I'm 10 pounds heavier than exactly a year ago. I exercise vigorously, you know, good years, bad years. Same with behavior, it's hard. And really the outreach, and I thank you for thanking the outreach workers, right? We should embrace the outreach and the victim advocates. They are, last night, my team was at Mount Sinai. Saturday into Sunday, we had 5 people shot. They're in their late 40s in West Garfield. In a second, someone drives. We have now guns with switches, and very quickly it becomes 5, where it used to be a lot less. Right? There's things that we failed as a city, as a society. Guns. As an Israeli soldier, I had to get a special permission as a civilian from my police district to have a private gun. I had an Uzi and an M16. I did not have a private gun as a civilian. I have to get, why do I want it? What's the circumstances? Am I traveling to dangerous places? I didn't just get the gun. The level of guns here traumatizes everyone. So my hope, to the question, what is our request from the mayor? Another excellent question. At the moment in Austin, we serve 200 real participants. We deal with a lot more, 200 a year in Austin. According to Crime Lab and others, there's 2,257 high-risk individuals in Austin. So we serve almost 10%. The average of CP4P, what we serve around the city of people who need it, is 17%. We have spent solutions on other solutions, locking people up, etc. We have spent billions, and it's us, the taxpayer. We're not that upset. The way I, as someone who studied economics, look at a jail, it is, I'm going to compete with another country. I'm productive, I'm paying taxes. But it's two of us. We get paid more than the other countries, let's say. And I'm going to tell another person, you don't need to work. Spend a year $60,000 in a hotel. It's called Cook County Jail. We're going to feed you 3 times, and we'll pay for it. It's not a very efficient model when we build on people's failure. So the model of outreach that integrates people back, gives them hope, and uses former combatant, that's something I do have in common with the teams. We who have seen the horror of violence are peacemakers not idealistically. We are peacemakers out of necessity. We've seen the ugliness of war, whether it's in the neighborhoods or whether it's across another sea. So for us, it's a very practical act, right? It maybe doesn't move as fast as we civilians want to. Sometimes we see something on TV, we want consequences today. But we have broken families, we send them away, they came back even more violent, more traumatized, we haven't treated their trauma. I can tell you the staff I have, we now have 2, soon to have 4 clinicians just for my staff. I used to just, thank you. I used to just love on my staff, but that's inappropriate, it's not enough. They have complex trauma, they've seen so much. We send them back to the same corners where their friend, sometimes a mother, sometimes a daughter was killed, or they were shot. So we now provide them treatment, and we're building an incredible civilian architecture. If you're curious, connect with One Northside, connect with CP4P, come and learn. I'm pretty conservative in my views, and I don't like to overpromise. I'm not going to tell you how Commander Parham from 15 talks about his successes in Austin the last 5 years, because until we get to the promised land, there's a lot of work ahead. But I think in Chicago now we built the largest civilian architecture in the country, between outreach, victim services, case management, and there's a program called FLIP, which if you read the Tribune this Sunday, Andy Papachristos from Northwestern wrote about that. These are people still involved in the life that we're starting to drag in our way. We're putting them in the corners that are the most dangerous, where they're from, and tell them just keep your friends cool. But it gives them a taste of peacemaking. They're not ready yet, they're not on this side of the law, but it gives them, they get a stipend, and they start seeing that. So if we include FLIP, which is around the city, I think we have almost 1,000 people, quite a lot of them with serious backgrounds that didn't have a way back to normal society. And when someone is desperate, I don't know how you think about that. To me, desperate people are dangerous people. I don't want people to be desperate. I got to give them a path back. People are exhausted, as Darryl was saying, about his lifestyle, but what path do we have back? And it's in the interest of all of us. So we now, I think, it's just my calculation on a napkin, we have the largest reentry program in the United States here in Chicago. Soon we're going to have a new superintendent. Policing now is happening in the districts with CP4P differently. We're going to help to reduce the stress on policing because we're going to do some of that. And with us, it's going to be mental health treatments, domestic violence. There's going to be others that are coming into this civilian part that does of the response. We're not the whole solution. I always want to underpromise. But this architecture is gonna, I feel cautiously optimistic, get Chicago to a place where some other cities got. It's a beautiful city, it's a wonderful city, and we deserve not to be two cities, right? It's no reason someone in Austin should have a chances to get killed much more than I did as an Israeli soldier in Lebanon. And we can, there is so much good to see here and benefit from this city. That's what we're working towards. So I'll close with the answer. Daryl said a few times, the resources, right? We all want, we put Black Lives Matter stickers on. We all want a bit different life and equality, but then someone says your taxes are gonna go up. Well, how deep is our love? How deep is our one city? Not to mention good capitalism, the what is it? Gross domestic product, GDP of Chicago could be 3 times what it is. There's a lot of places that are not developed in Chicago because it's violent, simple. Women get diabetes if they cannot run in the park by their house. Diabetes costs all of us as taxpayers quite a lot of money. There's all those other illnesses. So when we change that, the benefit, and I'll close with that, we can be Detroit or we can be New York City. And we have lost a few 100,000 people in Chicago. It's violence. New York was losing like Chicago, and Detroit was losing like Chicago. New York solved its problem, and people started coming back to the cities, and the incomes went back. Detroit didn't, though there's some encouraging sign, and they kept losing people. We're somewhere in the middle. But nothing else will happen, no investment. We can say this is too late for this population. No, it's not. When you have a war zone, the investment in early childhood and all those good investment in root causes will not take roots when you have a root zone. So we got to do both. We are not advocates just for our field. Let's create after-school programs, weekends, theaters, music. We want other fields to be benefiting, early childhood. Right? We are just the finger in the dike. We're going to hold and calm down to an extent the violence. But we want those other investments. But we will all benefit for that. But that's the hard part. We often are very much at the end of the day with little calculators. Right? And we got to be generous because in the long term, it's going to be benefiting all of us in Chicago. Thank you. I don't know if people have questions. I went long. Sure. Anyone has a question? Meg, did I speak clearly or did I blubber everything else as a foreigner? Sorry.
Thanks for your presentation, and thank you for making the comparison to other cities as well. I used to live in Baltimore when their violence interrupter system was just starting up, and much like here we have Northwestern and University of Chicago, Johns Hopkins there analyzes like every piece of their system, and they have been very slowly moving. They've been showing pockets of progress and this and that, but you know, much like Chicago, Baltimore has a lot of deep issues to overcome. So the point of my question is, what does success for Chicago look like to you? So is it a Boston miracle and, you know, what 70% reduction, or what happened for you in Providence? What is success of these systems looking like to you?
Really important question. Yes, I think we all want to see, and I think Jim Crown, rest in peace, it took us 1.5 years to work with him, and he studied before he committed. That's kind of a leadership that doesn't just jump into something and jumps out. And then he passed away tragically a month after he really put the business community in. And he was looking at it. What kind of police leadership? What kind of civilian architecture you need? So the numbers themselves are only part of the story, right? And you can sometimes have a few people getting released and your neighborhood is on fire, right? Or a tragic shooting of a 3-year-old, and now you have 2 crews that Daryl's team worked hard on, and that piece is out the window. And now, but when it's out of the window and there's a conflict, would you not rather have people who still can talk to the angry 2 sides rather than none? So that's part of success, being close, proximate. It's every day. I talked today to someone we were talking about constantly being close to those. Today at the Institute, we met with juvenile probation. Give us the 10 wildest. I was just sitting with the commander in 15, 4 young juveniles arrested for carjacking. I don't want to read about it. I don't want to tweet about it. I don't want to panic everyone about it. I want to access them, right? I want to make sure they get services. There's a debate ideologically that splits us. Kim Fox is she at fault, this at fault, that at fault. Treatment. Whether you get shot or you do something really stupid and dangerous, you flag yourself for us as deserving of treatment. Something is not clicking there for you. Whether you're too scared, you're in a dangerous neighborhood, or your decision making is stupid, or you want to impress girls with a gun, whatever, it could be a lot of reasons. We got to jump on it like an emergency room trauma team jumps on a patient. That's how we approach that. We need to have the same urgency, right? So success will be that before you get into trouble, early warnings in school, you start falling behind, you don't call CP4P. There's a prevention system. There's people who are fathers, mothers in those communities who have access, and they're not barred from the schools because of a criminal background, for example. There's still parents in their schools, so involvement. Success will be that for when we have a domestic violence, there is an ability to get the groups to work on good access. We at the moment still don't have perfect access in this city to hospitals and schools, whereas on the East Coast we do. So there's still things to build in this strategy that we will access and approach. So numbers will come down, but more than that, you were mentioning 150 a year, the people we see that are now working. We have people who are now truck drivers who used to be major shooters in Austin, because one of our outreach workers has great connection to CDLs, where people through CP4P who are doing welding classes, they're getting stipend. People are changing their mind. It's working. The numbers will show it. They're already showing it in some places. If you look at, again, in Andy Papachristos' piece from Sunday in the Tribune, the hot spots where the flip workers are almost see no violence when they're on. That's incredible. These are the most difficult places in Chicago. So we're in the right direction. I can tell you that the cities that I work with and really help change, Boston and Providence, we didn't know when we're going to hit the tipping point. You just don't know. You keep working, you trust the instruments that we're building and what we're building and how we're engaging. When we start seeing, we now have people, our staff, getting stopped in other areas, in gas station when they're filling their car. Hey, I want to be a flip worker. How do I get to that? So that's good. That's an alternative to what they knew before and had no hope. I was this Saturday talking to Daniel Webster, John Hopkins, good friend of mine, talking about Baltimore. Dante Barksdale was a good friend of mine. He was the head of the outreach team in Baltimore, and he was killed on a Sunday morning at 11 at a housing project where he came from. And I have a lot of feelings for Baltimore, so that successes, we will see it. We're rowing in the same direction. Law enforcement, agencies. We still have a massive problem in this city around housing. And it's not just CVI, not just people involved in violence. You have people addicted to opioids, domestic violence, poor people, homeless. There's so many agencies around the city, and we gotta unclog. I'll put a little bit Chicago to shame here. East Coast and West Coast had the same white flight in '68 when King was killed, and empty lots. There's no empty lots in Boston and Providence and Los Angeles. We got to change the legislation here, and we got to build. We cannot do not in my backyard, not in your backyards. People are desperate and they die and they kill. So, sorry, that was a long answer.
Hi. So first off, immense gratitude to you and Darrell for the teams and all the good work that you all are doing. This is a community meeting, so then that begs me to think about, well, what about us? It's all hands on deck. So one thing that I've been observing is with public safety top of mind for people, they have a tendency to withdraw. And abandon their communities. And so that kind of creates this space where things start to happen. And so we're encouraged to be visible, be out, engage. But I'm wondering could you give us some insight on this issue of the perception of public safety or lack thereof and the reality when we look at things like the dashboard? And then how do you, as a member of your community, how do you address all of this? Thank you.
Tough question, right? But the one I should be able to answer, I hope. So I did an experiment with young people in Roxbury and Dorchester in Boston when we went from 156 homicides to 31. I was speaking in their classrooms often. I said, is the city now safer or not? I didn't tell them the number. I said, oh, it's much worse. It's out of control. Young people are crazy. And they're all in high school, right? It's like, really? Well, these are the numbers. One cannot, I'm never going to degrade perception in a neighborhood like this when you have a carjacking. But we need to reverse that. We can just be very angry and again, seek the police and dismantle everything else. Not fair to the police, not fair to the long-term solution. But it's an instinct, I know that. At the same time, in Austin or in West Garfield, in a weekend, you had like 5 or 6 homicide potential. I'm actually exaggerating. In a week, yes, but not on. So there are people in a community. So you can, just like with the Holocaust, some people in my country have become right-wing. They killed 6 million of our people, never again, we're going to be ruthless. Or you can look at the Holocaust and say, we better create empathy and networks among people. Yes, we're going to defend ourselves, but there's a lot of prevention we can do. That's the approach I approach as an Israeli, right? Safety is building bridges, reaching out. That's how we have a safety society. This is a really important piece. We as liberals, I'm not saying you liberals, I'm a liberal, tough liberal. You don't want to meet me late at night alone, right? But as liberals, we sometimes are very weak in our commitments. It gets a bit tough, and we gotta be as committed as sometimes the other side that just wants the death penalty or pro-gun, right? We're fighting for the soul of our society, right? And that's what it takes. It's not without work, and you cannot subcontract and almost like seek the dogs on people, right? It's and it's relationship, and our young people love it when we care about them. Yes, some of us look different, but love is a universal language. And who is in your schools? How are they succeeding? But there's some power and privilege we have. And we gotta make sure that the decisions are made. It's not charity. Equity and equality is not charity, it's self-interest. But we gotta win on those. We almost, this election, I'll be political, I'm sorry. We had some tough 2 years during COVID and social unrest. The whole country, Wall Street Journal wrote about it, in rural and white America, violence shot up. But we almost elected a policy of 1990s policing. We were razor thin on this election. Every one of us should do a self-reflection, right? I actually lived through bad policing and good policing. I actually lived through investment in the community. I don't speak from theory. I speak from pure experience. I know blocks now in different parts of this country that would have been very dangerous for me to walk before, are extremely safe, and people are thriving. So I'm speaking purely from experience. Sure.
Next question, thank you.
Now that no cash bail has been adopted in Illinois, I'm wondering if that is going to leave another large segment of the population that has been arrested but is out in the community waiting for a court date. How is this going to affect the architecture of your organization? And how does that compare with Boston? I know they don't have no cash bail there, right? Because Illinois is the first, is that correct?
I don't know about Boston at the moment. Boston is in many ways more progressive. The cash bail is, let me speak from two perspectives. Let me for a moment put, if the brothers will permit me, speak through the eyes of the Black community. The no being released because I don't have money for all kind of things tortured that community. I had 2 staff violated for absolutely nonsense because we at the moment have a conservative parole board. Absolutely derailed their lives, got evicted their families, and as a taxpayers, we're paying for it. Now they're coming back, luckily we'll grab them back, but we do a lot of damage that we don't see. What we do here in our system is when someone goes and causes damage, we do see that. And we get broad, you have CWB and you have other people who advertise that on Twitter really, really hard. But you don't see all the people that are out on bail, often on electronic monitors, and are building their lives. I will be critical of my liberal camp for a moment. They have not really strategized well, I think, when they work to pass it, because the damage in the community is really noticeable when you had high cash bails. To me, I would have done a system a bit again like public health. You get arrested with a gun, you might go through a trial, you're innocent. There's a lot of reasons people carry a gun, by the way. Many of them are just fear, right? Not everyone who carries a gun is a violent offender. It's a small amount. 0.3% usually of the population, right? So all those others are not. So we need to find out. But it still should be an opportunity to intervene with services. And that was not part of the deal, partially maybe because people thought there won't be backing from our population to support and invest. But to me, if you got arrested with a gun, a tool that can take someone's life, I should intervene. I should have the access. We have a system of conflict between defense and prosecution. I don't want to mess with that. But let us step in between and do you have trauma? Why do you do that? Why? Without it, it's incriminating. So we're not messing with the case. Let the case proceed without us. And we do that. We now have judges who divert gun charges. People got a chance. Create with them a plea, and they do really well when they're diverted. It's tiny at the moment, right? So it's very normal to be afraid, and we will hear the 1 or 2, but you don't hear about the one who served sentence, got really traumatized in jail, learned new criminal networks, and came out and blasted 17 of us. Where our system actually made them more toxic. So like, if you look at jail as a hospital, is it making me healthier or worse? And some people, time out was not a bad thing. I'm not a full abolitionist, but some people in my movement are, and that's okay. But we gotta really check our assumptions. Normally, as a civilian who is not involved in that, it will make sense. Consequencing, lock them up, remove them. We've removed, how many Americans have criminal backgrounds? 30 million, 40, 50, I don't know. It's unbelievable. No other civilized society has anything like that. So we gotta start relying on other solutions. Did I answer it a little bit? Started to? Sort of, yes. Wasn't perfect, sure. All right.
Thank you, Tenny. Anna, do you mind moving to slide 22? So before we move into public comment, I just want to give an announcement of our next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, August 30th at 6:30 p.m. And it's going to be at the Athenaeum Center, the Paradiso Room specifically. We'll be sending out plenty of reminders before then, so please mark your calendars. In terms of public comment, Anna, if you mind going to slide 24. I just want to remind everybody about just the rules and how we normally go about public comment. We will give 2 minutes per speaker. We can afford up to about 10 speakers. We're gonna put aside 20 minutes for public comment. You can make a request to make public comment. Right now, if you want to see Amy, you can fill out a form. And then we're going to select speakers at random. And then I just ask that there's no disruption of speakers, and we will not be tolerating any form of harassment or disrespect, both from those sitting or anybody coming up to make public comment. As long as everything is respectful, we can move forward accordingly. And right now, we only have one speaker, so make sure if you do want to make public comment, see Amy. If you have made a request to comment, if you can come up and I will show you my screen so you know how much time you have left. So Nalani McClendon, if you want to come up and give your public comment. And before you make your public comment, please state and spell your name, and then I'll start the timer after that. You can stand right here, right next to me, and then.
Nalani McClendon, Nalani McClendon. I want to thank you again for your service, and you fully have committed to really improving our 19th district. I just would like, if you could maybe illuminate some ways that how can we support you in all of your efforts in improving our 19th district?
Thank you, Nalani. So as Jenny mentioned earlier, we are looking for district council liaisons, and that doesn't have, you don't have to be part of any one group. You know, we welcome any volunteers. So if you want to reach out to us, 19thdistrictcouncil@gmail.com. We will take all the help we can get. In fact, it's a great segue for me to give our thanks to our full team today. I want to thank Amy Weiss for helping us with public comment and logistics. I want to thank Anna Mankas for helping us with the slides. I also want to thank Chungers Kim for the technical support today to make this all possible, and obviously our hosts, Lincoln Park Presbyterian Church.
You guys for showing up to this meeting, because
obviously
as
the community
we've
members that
mentioned
makes
before-
this possible. And obviously we want to extend another heartfelt thank you to Darrell Dakers and the CP4P team and Tenny Gross. And I'm not sure if I announced it, but Tenny's organization is Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. Again, all of this is going to be posted online. We will send another blast email with our recap of this meeting with links, and as we heard, to support these organizations best, funding is #1 issue. We will be sure to include any links and resources so that you can help spread the word and donate if you would like.
And just to add to that, thank you for that question. I think this is a brand new position, and one of the things that we really have been spending lots of time and energy doing is letting people know that we exist, that we're here, and kind of how we are going to operate. We are still trying to figure that out as well, so we definitely encourage you guys to give us your feedback. But we want to be out in the community, talking to people and sharing as much as we can how we see this working right now, and hearing from them what else they would like from us. And just continuing to have these conversations about what you're hearing in these spaces, about what an expanded public safety system could look like in the 19th district and throughout the city. I think we have a really unique situation in the 19th where we can really be the test and try a lot of these new ideas that can hopefully then proliferate throughout the city. So please just share what you hear, bring people with you to our meetings, sign up for all of our website, our email blasts, and our Instagram accounts.
Yeah, and
we haven't, if we skip to, what's the slide?
Slide 27.
Slide 27, there's some other ways that we suggest to help.
We started to end our meetings with a call to action. So specifically, we're asking everybody to remember to research and learn more about the Superintendent's Search by the CCPSA. That's extremely exciting. It's historic. Please stay up to date with that. Research community violence intervention organizations and resources in your neighborhood, especially Institute Nonviolence Chicago and Communities Partnering for Peace, or CP4P. I know that we mentioned another organization. It's called One North Side. It is a partnering organization with Communities Partnering for Peace, and that's specifically for the Uptown, Rogers Park, and Edgewater communities. And then finally, ask your alderperson how they plan to incorporate community violence intervention organizations and resources into their public safety plans. Obviously, we are very much in contact with the alderpersons here in the 19th district, but we would also like you to join that effort as well. And then Anna, lastly, if you want to go to slide 28, just want to make a quick comment. We finally were able to access and activate our city emails. So this will be provided as well in the email blast, but we now have official city emails, so you can contact us individually that way as well. And then finally, again, if you haven't heard it enough tonight, 19thdistrictcouncil.com is our website, or you can reach all three of us at 19thdistrictcouncil@gmail.com. And with that, I'm going to call to adjourn at 7:50 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for coming.